blah 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 blah, blah 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 blah, blah 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 blah. I've tried several times to record this. Go and get Mummy's picture.
This is Daddy.
Yeah, it's Daddy. There, look. Hi. My initial plan was to be doing some work on my Brompton bike whilst I talked about the Neistats. However, I could not keep up a narrative whilst also talking. So I would end up working in silence or talking and not doing anything, and neither of which was particularly interesting. Then the next thing I did was just gave up and just started talking to camera and walking around. And then I realised that actually I wasn't really saying anything. When you write essays, they tell you not to just recount the story, you need to do the analysis. And what I was doing was I was just relaying the story of the Neistats. And let's face it, if you want to know that, you can just Google them and find them out. So what I realised is I needed to get to the core of why the Neistats are interesting to me. So why? Why are the Neistats interesting? Car starting. We'll come back shortly. Well, probably like all of you, I got into the Neistats through Casey. He's an interesting dude. He's about my age. He got his girlfriend knocked up at 17 and had a kid, so for the whole of his adult life he's had to work. So he is a great example of someone that has not let his situation get in the way of his success, which is inspiration in itself. He also, I think, is probably what I consider to be part of the first and second wave of YouTube. So YouTube, I think, was about 2008 when it first started, and then the paradigm kind of shifted 2008 through to kind of 2014, 2015, 2016, which is when Casey started doing his daily vlogs. I think he ended up doing about 800, and that's really, I think, when we hit this like paradigm shift for the like online YouTube industry. Similar paradigm shifts for like the internet before the internet bubble popped, when Amazon and Yahoo and all those people were around for the first time. And so he was sort of one of the kings of the second stage, and then he kind of not gave up, but I think he'd proved his point, done enough, and sort of moved on to do other things. But before he left, he flagged his brother Van is when the Neistats got interesting. He's like 10 years older than me, which means he's sort of a Gen X, whereas I'm a sort of cross between a Gen X and a millennial. He's far more analog than I am. I'm comfortable with computers, comfortable with phones, don't annoy me. He is on record as saying that he finds the computers annoying. So I don't relate to that, but so many bits of what he does has resonated so strongly with me. One of the first YouTube videos he did was this one. It was like a book report on this book called The Fourth Turning, which I hadn't read. But in that report, he also flagged this other book, which interestingly was not called what it was when I read it. But it is this one. Hold on. Okay, so working with your hands, or why office work is bad for us and fixing things feels good, by Matthew Crawford. Now that book was the first time really that someone sort of put into words that actually potentially working in an office, which is all I'd done up until the time I read it, was not necessarily a good thing, and potentially you would feel crap doing it. And that sort of gave me permission to think about other ways of life. And there is a video coming up at some point on books, we'll get to that then, but that Neistat talking about that book, and then The Fourth Turning, and then coming up with this idea of this spirited man. And I hate looping into someone else's rhetoric and ideas, but it really, really resonated with me about this idea that you could be a spirited person, and that meant that you fix things, and you wanted to understand the world, and you were interested in art, but you were interested in engineering and building things, and like keeping your car running and not being involved in disposable culture. Van Neistat is who interested me about the Neistats. He has these sort of compartments in his life, so he has a toolkit for each of the things. I'm similar in that, he has this sort of desire, not a desire, but a need to create, but it's not an easy thing. It's something he has to sit and work at, and he has a workshop which it's kind of like this, but this is not where it's good. Van, unlike a lot of other creators, is pretty vocal about the fact that he plays to the algorithm for YouTube. He has to try and put 2 videos a week, and he is trying to earn enough money to live off YouTube, which is not a story or a message that lots of other YouTubers put out. He did one video where he talked about doing Patreon, or sort of people donating so he could change the engine in his truck so he could do this journey, this vision, or this sort of journey down to Mexico that he's always wanted to do. And to me, that didn't seem quite right. That was a very public ask for money for something that was potentially quite a personal experience. He wasn't going to do it, probably was going to shoot a documentary about it, but it's not a selfless desire. And I do have issue with that, I guess. This video has been interesting because it's also given me an insight into what this channel should actually be. And by that I mean, it's not just me talking about something because it's interesting. It's not a book report. It's not me talking about a guitar, whatever it is. It's the delving into it. It's the understanding what it is that makes it tick for me, and whether there is some universal truth in that. Gotta choose the next video before I tell you to remember to choo-choo. So that's it. Next week, songwriting is easy. But for now, like and subscribe. Choo choo.